Here tonight we are going to be making lasagna and a salad and some garlic bread for dinner tonight. So I'm going to start out by sauteing up my meat. I'm going to pour a little bit of olive oil into my big sauce pot or saucepan, and I'm going to turn my heat to about a medium high, and I'm going to add a pound of Italian sausage. Squeeze this guy out. And about a pound or so of ground beef. I'm just gonna eye it because I have a big pack of it here. So it could be this will probably be closer to a pound and a half, but that will be good. And I'll set this to the side. I'm gonna wash my hands real quick. But I have in there Italian sausage and ground beef. And I'm gonna get a spatula and I'm gonna start breaking it up into some smaller chunks so that it will cook nice and evenly.
Oh, Mary just sent you a rose.
Oh, well, thank you. And I'm gonna break this up and I'm gonna add a little bit of Italian seasoning. I'm using Italian Medley by, I guess, Mrs. Dash's or Dash's Italian Medley, which is a salt-free version, which is I love because I can then add however much salt I want to add to it. Or you can use just plain Italian seasoning, or you can mix together like basil, oregano, marjoram, I can't say that one. You could use those spices too if you just have them freehand. I found this blend and I like it, so that's what I use. So I'm gonna break all this up and I'm gonna make sure that my Italian sausage is getting mixed up with my ground beef. You could use all ground beef or all Italian sausage. I like to do a nice blend of it because I think it mellows the sausage out, but still gives it that nice kick to it. So I'm gonna break this up into kind of nice, good chunks because, you know, this is gonna be in our lasagna, so we don't want too big. We want to be able to have manageable bites when we eat it. And then, now that I have everything kind of mixed together, I'm going to then sprinkle my Italian seasoning on, and I'm probably going to use about, I would say half a tablespoon, so a teaspoon and a half. And then I'm going to use some garlic salt to season up my meat, to give it a little saltiness. And again, this will probably end up being about a teaspoon to a teaspoon and a half. And in here, I have a pound of Italian sausage and 1.5 pounds of ground beef, give or take an ounce or two. And then I'm gonna just stir this up and let it saute and cook. Now that I've got all these big chunks broken up, I'm gonna let it sit and cook. I'm gonna just turn it down to 7. And I'm gonna start on my ricotta cheese base. So I'm gonna use a big container of ricotta. Normally I use whole milk, but this is the only one they had at the store. So I'm just using this. It's a, 32 ouncer, so 2 pounds of ricotta. Take that film off. I'm just gonna squeeze it out. There we go. Just use my knife to scrape the rest of it out. I'll have that in the bowl. And then I'm going to add, this is about a half a bag of Parmesan cheese. So I'm gonna add this in there. And I'm gonna add about 2 big handfuls of mozzarella cheese into this. I like to add some extra cheeses to my ricotta, just so it's not super creamy, but has more of a really good cheese melt to it in there. Let me stir up this because we're browning nicely and I don't want it to burn. And then one of my secret ingredients that I like to add is I like to add a little bit of pesto so that my ricotta has a really nice flavor to it. I found that Rana's brand or Costco's Kirkland brand pesto are my favorite. I'm not a big fan of like Butatoni's or whatever that brand is. I think they use too much pine nut in it and it just has a funky flavor. So I'm going to mix these up to combine them. And the pesto is also going to give it a nice green color. Sometimes I also throw in some fresh basil, but they were out of it at the store this week. And my basil plant is needing to recover from some basil I used earlier in the week for my tomato basil soup. So I'm going to stir this up, and then I'm going to give it a generous shake of garlic salt. Will probably be about a teaspoon of garlic salt in there, just to flavor it up so it has a nice flavor in my ricotta. Otherwise, I can feel like sometimes it can be a little bland if you don't have good flavoring. And now I'm going to stir up, break up my chunks over here in my thing. Are almost all getting cooked. You're going to cook it until, of course, all the red is gone and you just see the brown. I'll stir this up nicely. Break it. Luckily, this cooks pretty fast. And today, instead of using, I know back a lot of people used to boil their noodles and put it in. I have found these lasagna sheets, they're like fresh lasagna, work so much better than trying to boil lasagna noodles and put it in here. I find that they have a really great texture and they work a lot better. And I used to also make like fresh lasagna sheets, but again, that takes just so much time. It's not something I can whip together quickly on a weekday. But these are a really close second. And they're just, I love them because they're not, you know how sometimes they have those dried, no boil ones that you can get in the pasta aisle. I find that no matter what, those always are crunchy and they don't absorb enough of the juices to make them tender. These fresh ones, they are never crunchy. They're perfect every time. Okay, so now that my sausage and ground beef is just about cooked, I'm going to add in some tomato sauce. So I used a little bit of tomato sauce earlier today when I made my kids some noodles, so I'm going to use the rest of this one, Botticelli's. It's a pretty good one, sauce to use. It's not super spicy or fragrant. It's just a good basic marinara. I also am a really big fan of Rouse. This is probably my favorite, and I can get it at Costco, which is always a bonus. And I'm going to turn this into my meat and stir it around. And this is going to be my meat sauce base for my lasagna. Some people like to strain their meat between it. Since I was using a leaner beef and stuff like that, I like to leave a little bit of that oil in there because I think it adds a nice spicy texture to it with the Italian sausage. And there wasn't much in there. Now, if I had maybe like a 80-20% ground beef or a 70-20, I would probably drain a little bit off. But since this ground beef was leaner, it was I think a 93% ground beef, I didn't need to drain it as much. Okay, so now I have my sauce nice and mixed up and ready to go. Woo! Got a little carried away there. I'm going to leave it on low and just let it simmer as I assemble my lasagna. Look at this out of the way. I'm going to use, I have this as a cast iron baking dish, but you can use a lasagna pan or just a regular pan. But this one works well. It carries the heat evenly as I cook. Okay, so first I need to get a little spoon that can hold a little of my broth, or of my little sauce. I'm gonna just put a little bit of this sauce on the bottom, just to make sure that my underbelly of my noodles get just a little bit of sauce as well. Keeps them from sliding. And then I'm gonna take my lasagna sheets, just easy peasy. And look, 2 sheets fit perfectly in the bottom. I'm gonna do a layer of meat sauce first. And you'll just kind of wanna, you don't wanna spread it too thick because then it won't be manageable when you cut. So just a nice layer where you've got it covering everything, but you don't need to pile it on. There we go. Get a little bit more in the middle. There we go. And I'm just gonna use mine and kind of tamp it all down, just like if you were tamping down concrete. Perfect. And then I'm gonna take some mozzarella cheese. And I love Tillamook. I think they make a really good cheese, but you could use any brand you want. And I'm just gonna generously sprinkle some of the mozzarella on top for my first layer. There we go. And now I'm ready to put my second layer of noodles on. I'll pat this down. And another layer right here. And now I'm gonna add my ricotta, or the base. Again, if you're joining us now, this is ricotta mixed with some Parmesan cheese. And looks like I accidentally got the plastic wrapper in there for my ricotta. And Parmesan cheese, mozzarella cheese, pesto, and ricotta. And I mixed it all together. That's why it has a little bit of a greenish hue. And then just a little bit of garlic salt so that it has a nice seasoning to it. And I'm just going to spread it on, try to get it as even. It doesn't need to be, you don't want it to be super thick because again, this is gonna melt nicely and you want your noodles to still be the show and be there. I once made, one of my first times making lasagna, I didn't realize how little you actually needed between each layer. And it was delicious, but it was a soupy mess. So just a little bit can go a long way. There we go. Good ricotta. And then I'm gonna take another 2 sets of noodles. I'm gonna place them right on top, just like this. And then kind of push it down so that they're all sticking together nicely. And now I will be ready for my next meat layer. And I'm gonna spread it down evenly like I did with the first meat layer. Not too thick, but have a nice even covering. And I'll spread this all the way over and get some right over here and fill it all out. My meat sauce is just a pound of Italian sausage, 1.5 pounds of ground beef, some Italian seasoning and garlic salt that we sauteed up, and then I added 2 jars of marinara sauce. So now that I have it spread evenly, get maybe a fill in a little of those blank spots, perfect. I take my mozzarella again, and I'm just going to cover it. I use about 1/2 bag for each layer. And then on my top layer, I'll of course use a lot more so you have that thick, cheesy crust. Very nice. And now, let me get my next sheet of noodles. Each one of these packs of noodles, they have about 6, they have 6 big sheets in there, which if you're just making a small pan of lasagna, that will work fine for. You need about 2 packs to make a big tray like this. There we go. I'm gonna place that down. Perfect. Now I'm gonna do my ricotta base again. Take a big scoop, put it right here so I can spread it out nice and evenly. Sometimes the ricotta can be a little bit tricky, so don't be afraid to get messy. It does like to stick to the noodles.
And people are saying they've never seen the sheets before. Oh
yeah, I was gonna say I made this over Thanksgiving, and my brother-in-law, who's a super foodie, he hadn't seen them either. They've been around for a while, but I will say they are a game changer to making lasagna. I mean, it takes the boiling part out, and they're not crunchy like the no-boil ones that you can get, like the dried ones. So I've loved them. I've been using them for at least 2-3 years now. They're in where I find them at Publix. They're in the refrigerated section next to the, like all the pastas, like where you can get the tortellini or any of the fresh pastas. They're all right there. Okay. I'm done with that. Oh, it's good ricotta. And now I'm gonna put a next layer on. I'm gonna seal it down. Press. And here's another one. And then I'm gonna do another layer of meat sauce. And spread this one. Right here. If you're gonna do a lasagna, you're gonna want a high pan, or if you don't have a high pan or stuff like that, or you've overstuffed it, just put a baking sheet under it so that it doesn't bubble over and then make your oven like a huge mess. You can make the really tall lasagna pans, or you can buy the aluminum ones that you can throw away when you're done. But I find that I always just put it on top of a baking sheet, and then I don't have to worry about any drippings if it bubbles over. Okay, look at this. Looks like I made just about the perfect amount of meat sauce. You can see it's almost all gone. I'm gonna put a nice layer here. Perfect. And then on my top one, instead of doing cheese here, I'm gonna just put my noodle on top because I'm gonna do the cheese crust right on top of the noodle for the next one. So I'm gonna place my last noodle right up here, and I'm going to tamp it down. Make sure I wanna get it all, touching all of the yummy juices. And then I'm gonna finish off with both Parmesan and mozzarella. So, and this one you're gonna make sure you're gonna coat it as if it looks like a pizza. You're gonna have a nice thick layer on top because you want that picture perfect cut and cheese pull. Lasagna is not a diet food, it's a comfort food, so you wanna make sure you get all the cheese on there. That's what makes it extra yummy. So I'm gonna cover it up nicely. For this recipe, I used 3 bags of cheese. So that's what, 1.5 pounds of mozzarella.
You got asked about the noodles again?
Oh, the noodles, yes. Here, I have an open one. So these are the noodles I use. They're the fresh, like lasagna sheets. And you can, you don't have to boil them. They're just fresh pasta. They're in the refrigerated pasta area. They're so much better than the dry noodles or the no-bake ones or the no-boil ones. They stay moist the whole time and they soak up all the flavor. And then I'm just gonna finish by putting a little bit of Parmesan cheese on the top, just like this. And so for my cheese count in here, for all of that, including the ricotta that we made, it was 1 tub of ricotta, 3 bags of shredded mozzarella, and 1 bag of Parmesan cheese for the cheese part. Perfect. And now this bad boy is ready to go in the oven. So I have my oven already preheated to 350. So we can go and put it over there. Let me grab my tray out first in case we have some bubblies. So I just am gonna put it right on top of the baking sheet. That way you don't have to have a mess to clean up later.
We got a question. Am I happy with this recipe? When she makes it this way, yes, but she also makes, I don't know.
A vegetable one.
Yeah, she'll tell you about that one. But
yeah, so sometimes especially if I'm making it for some friends of mine, I have a vegetable-filled one where I saute up mushrooms and I put a bunch of fresh spinach in the ricotta. So it's definitely a more veggie one. My husband does not like that. And my kids are not as big a fan of that one as they are of the traditional one. So the traditional one's a big hit. And so I try to please my family most, unless we have guests. And then it's for the guests and not for them. So I'm gonna clean this up and then we're gonna work on our salad and some garlic bread.
Yeah, I'm a cheese guy. Meat, cheese, potatoes. Yeah, basically those.
Yes, basically if it's yellow, brown, or white, he'll eat it. If it has a hint of color, not so much, unless it's fruit. He eats a wide variety of fruit. I have gotten him to eat Brussels sprouts, but only with bacon. Okay, so now why don't we can prep our garlic bread and then we can go to our salad. So let me get a tray out for the garlic bread. I'll get this out of the way and I'm gonna get a bread knife. So I had some leftover French hamburger buns from, we made earlier this week, I made fried pork tenderloin sandwiches. The video's on my page if you want to see it. And we used French hamburger buns for them, but we had some extra left over. So I'm going to use them now to make garlic bread because I don't want anything to go to waste. So I'm just gonna cut them each in half, just like this. And because I'm always, I've learned when I was first started out cooking, I had a lot more waste. You'd have big ideas when you would go to the store that you were going to cook certain things, and then I would end up throwing away so much because it got bad or whatnot. So now I really try to see what ingredients I have laying around the house and try to incorporate them into meals because we are feeding a small army here. I have 5 kids, and then I also cook for my parents. So, hey, Bruni.
We got a question. Why is it so quiet? The little ones are playing with their older brother.
Yes, whenever we have some playrooms in our house that are just over there. Whenever the kids get home from school, the older ones, they kind of flock to them.
And we have 2 dogs. They're King Charles Cavalier Spaniels.
Cavalier King Charles Spaniels.
Yeah.
I picked them out. And funny story about, I picked this lady up. Hey, we rescued her. She was 8 now. We got her when she was 7. She's sweet. But her name was originally Marino's Precious Phoebe. So we got to rename them. And my husband said, well, we can only get a dog if we name it Brunhilde. So this is Brunhilde. We call her Bruni. But she's Brunhilde of the Southern Valkyrie. But she's a sweetie, and we love her.
And then Loki's our male.
Our male little mischief. He's probably where the kids are stealing their food in the playroom.
And we're based out of Tennessee, outside Nashville, for those of you asking.
Okay, we're going to start with our garlic bread. So I melted up some butter. I had that melting earlier. That way, if it thickened up, it would be fine. I'm going to add some garlic salt to it. Just a little bit. And I'm going to add like a pinch of Italian seasoning. And then I'm going to use my little basting brush here. And then I'm just going to turn these French hamburger buns into yummy garlic bread that I can just toast up quick in the oven. I was debating whether I wanted to do garlic bread with them or bread pudding. And I realized, well, we're having lasagna, and what's better than to dip into your little lasagna goo at the end is some garlic bread.
Yes, she she cooks for her parents as well as our family of 5, or family of 7, 5 kids. So yeah, she cooks for about 9 people a day.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes I swear, some people eat more than their share. So it's like feeding 2. Like my teenage boys, if anybody has teenage boys, they can eat you out of the house. They have like an endless stomach. It's just a bottomless pit.
And we asked about the cost of living. It's about middle of the road. It's not as cheap as it was when we lived in Iowa, which was about as cheap as you can get.
Yeah.
But with being so close to a big city, it's pretty middle of the road.
Yeah. I will say where we live, property taxes are really low. But we have a sales tax here, which is about 10%. It's just under, so I rounded up to 10%. So there's that on top of everything. But I will say food has been what is one of our big bills during the month, just because we're feeding so many mouths, and it's just gone up so much since COVID. I remembered before COVID for our family, our grocery bill was about $400 a week, $450. Granted, this is to feed a lot of mouths. And now we're easily at like $600-700 a week for the same amount of groceries. Okay, now I have these all covered.
We got some comments. California cost of living. Okay, to you guys,
Yeah,
our cost of living is dirt cheap.
Yes, dirt cheap here. But nobody can compare to California. And I have a feeling in the future your cost of living might be going up.
Yeah,
There's
really.
been a lot of damages to California recently. Hopefully none of you guys have been affected by it. Okay, now we've got these covered nice, and I'm actually gonna go and see if I have some Parmesan cheese to sprinkle on there. So I'm just pop over, I have my fridge right over here. If you see right here, this beautiful beam, a year ago, this did not exist in my kitchen. We had a little plug behind the wall. Perfect, we'll use pizza blend. And the pipe roast, we had a pipe right here in the wall behind the backsplash and everything, and it burst, and we didn't realize that it apparently had a slow leak. And then we woke up the day before school started with water flooding out from underneath the cabinets into our dining room, into our laundry room. I was like 7 months pregnant at the time, and it was a disaster, but they were like, nope, everything has to come out. We had mold. Now, fast forward a year and a half later, I have a beautiful kitchen that I'm very thankful for. And it's happier thoughts now. But being 7 months pregnant, having no kitchen, no laundry room, no dining room for 4 months was not what we wanted. On here, I'm just sprinkling a little bit of pizza blend cheese. So this has a mixture of like every Italian cheese you can think of. Looks like mozzarella, provolone, Asiago. Put on my little garlic bread, which I will not pop in the oven in a few minutes. But while this is waiting, we can work on our salad. So I'm just gonna make a basic, like, I would say like a Greek salad. I've got a head of, I'm gonna flip this over, a head of romaine, and I'm gonna just chop it up. You could use already pre-shredded. I find when you buy the whole head like this, your lettuce doesn't go bad as fast because it only starts to turn brown once it's been cut. So it's nice to have, I can get this and they'll last in my fridge for like 2-3 weeks without needing to be eaten. So we probably have a salad a couple times a week, so a big pack at Costco will last us 2-3 weeks. I'm gonna just mix it up. In there. And then I'm gonna add a sweet bell pepper. This is an elongated bell pepper, so it's not a spicy pepper. They had them at Costco. They looked cool. They taste just like a sweet pepper. So they're gonna be nice for a salad. They'll have a nice mellow flavor to them. And I'm just gonna probably cut them into fourths, and then I'll just chop them up into manageable pieces. My husband will only eat the lettuce out of this salad. He will not eat the tomatoes, he will not eat the peppers, and he will not eat the olives. But my kids aren't as picky as him, thank goodness. So they will eat some of it, parts of it. I only have one of my kids who will eat it all just the way I like it. And that's Evie, that's my middle one. And she loves tomatoes and peppers. And then I just have some cherry tomatoes here that I'm gonna throw in there as well. I can pop this open. And I'm gonna just cut them up. There. You know, in the summer, when it's Tennessee, so we have a long summer here. Not as much rain, but a good healthy amount. And my tomato plants really flourish here. They will grow from, I'll start getting fruit from, depending on when I plant them, but the beginning of June all the way till like October. They'll just keep bearing for me as long as I give them good water. I actually had some once last until November, and then we had our first frost, and then the plant was gone. But here, though, you can actually grow you can't grow it in the soil. The soil in Tennessee is terrible, but you do have optimal, like, growing climate. You just need to water every now and then, especially if we have a drought. Okay, let's see. We'll give a couple more tomatoes here. And then we are gonna go pop our garlic bread in the oven, and we can check on how our lasagna is doing. Also, since these are fresh noodles instead of the no-bake ones or it doesn't take as long to cook your lasagna. It only takes about 30 minutes for your lasagna to cook up. So I'm gonna put this garlic bread in here. It looks like I might need to move a tray, but you can see my lasagna right there. And just pull this up. Ooh, fits perfectly. So I can cook this garlic bread right on top, which will also help. The heat will warm it up, but it will make sure my cheese on my top layer doesn't burn, which is important because nobody wants burnt cheese on their lasagna. And now I'm gonna come and I'm gonna finish up my salad and add some olives. And get a fork. I love olives, and my 3-year-old likes olives. I haven't actually given any olives to my 1-year-old yet, so I wonder if he'll join my side. He's a pretty good eater. He eats pretty much anything, so I'm hoping he will like them as well. So we have our nice salad, which we can toss with the side. And now we also have, I do a fresh fruit with all of our meals. It's just a good way to get my kids to get enough fruit in that's fresh. So I'm gonna grab some, let's see. Yeah, I just went to Costco today, so I have watermelon and pineapple, but you can see that they're not quite ready yet. Although, look at the size of this pineapple. So I got them for this. It's the same. Look how big that one is. It's huge. I guess it's a Costco-sized pineapple. But those will be ready to cut up in a day or two. So I think today, our fruit, we're going to do some strawberries. So I'll prep those up because our lasagna still needs a few more minutes in here. So let me clear this over here. And I'm going to get a bowl. I always make, when I'm cooking for my kids, because I like to cook a wide variety of foods, and I like to make sure that there's always an option for our kids if that they like something. And so we always have a fruit because most kids, they like all the fruit. And that way, if they are hungry but they're not a fan of the meal, they can always eat a fruit to fill them up. It just gives them options so they're not instantly, oh, not this meal. But most of the time, we also have the cheese bread that I'm making, and that's typically a huge hit with them. And my husband, if he doesn't like the meal, I just say, tough luck, Buttercup. Okay, so I'm just gonna pop off the tops of them and then slice them up into nice, easy pieces. And because our strawberries are a little bit out of season right now, I'm just gonna sprinkle a little bit of sugar. It's not a lot, but it's just enough to bring out the natural sweetness in them and their natural flavors that they make them taste as if they're practically in season. When you get a fresh strawberry at peak season, you can't beat that. They're sweet, they have a robust flavor. But off season, I find that you just add just a teensy bit of sugar, you can almost mimic that flavor. Because otherwise, they just can be kind of bland or they can be a bit too tart. But the sugar seems to really enhance their natural flavors. So I'm gonna cut up a big bowl of this. We'll have it paired with our lasagna, we'll have a salad, we'll have the cheese bread. So we're actually gonna be hitting all 5 food groups today for our dinner, which is pretty good. Especially, you know, I know like some of my kids, I pack them lunches for their school, some of them prefer the hot lunch at school. And to me, I'm like, oh yes, you want the hot lunch at school so you can have 3 cookies and a biscuit or grab 2 servings of French fries. But some of my kids, they'll prefer it if I make it. But I know when at dinner time, I know what they're getting in their bellies, and I know at breakfast what they're getting in their bellies. What they have at school, I can't always help. There we go. And probably just a few more. Again, we feed like a mini army here. So, gotta have enough for everybody. And I will say, when you buy store for strawberries, right before you cut them up, give them a good wash, because it will help rehydrate them a little. And it'll prevent them from having like a gritty texture. So that, I think, is just about enough strawberries for us. So I'll pop this in here. And I'm gonna just pat these dry, the ones I didn't use, so that they don't get smushy in the fridge. And then I'm gonna sprinkle just a teensy bit of sugar on them to bring out their natural flavors. I have it right over here. I find I have everywhere, I have little jars of flour and sugar because they're just what you need. And I'm just gonna take maybe 2 good pinches. So not a lot of sugar. It's probably like a half a teaspoon. But it enhances them, and it causes the strawberries to sweat a little bit, which really brings out their juice and their flavor. And I'll just give them a good stir. And now we can go check on our lasagna and our garlic bread, and we can see where those are standing. Oh, we're getting a good thing. Looks like it. I'll pull out our bread on the top. You can see it's almost melted up, and it's getting a nice crispness. Again, I just refashioned some old French loaf hamburger buns. Getting a nice crispness. Again, I just refashioned some old French loaf hamburger buns. Very nice. Just about there. I'm gonna have it at 350. I'm just going to now, for the last like 10 minutes, I'm gonna bring it up to 400 to get that last final melt on them. I'll take out my garlic bread in about a minute or 2 because I don't want that to burn. Here we go. And then let's see. We made our salad. We've got our strawberries. And we have our garlic bread and our lasagna cooking. And now we have just a few minutes to wait. Does anybody have any questions? I'll run through the recipe. If you have questions, type it in, we can answer it. But we started out with a pound of ground or pork, of Italian sausage, and 1.5 pounds of ground beef. and we sauteed them up in the pan. Then I added Italian seasoning and garlic salt, and then 2 containers of tomato sauce. So I used, or of marinara. And that made the meat base for our lasagna. The cheese base, I used a big tub of ricotta. And then I added in some mozzarella and Parmesan and a big scoop of pesto. And then I stirred it with some garlic salt, stirred that together. And then these are the hot topic tonight. These are my fresh lasagna sheets that you can get. You don't have to boil them, and they don't get crunchy because they're already fresh. And then we just layered. I did meat layer, then I did the ricotta layer, meat, ricotta, meat, and then topped it all with cheese. Then we made our yummy salad here. And we do this. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to make our dressing for our salad. Okay, silly. I was thinking ahead. So I've got my, and get a bowl here. And I've got olive oil here. And then I'm going to use lemon juice as my acid or my emulsifier for it. And I've got garlic salt. Perfect. So I'm going to start and I'm going to pour in, oh, that will probably be 1/4 of a cup. We don't need a lot to coat our salad with. And then I'm going to cut my lemon here. Make sure I'm going to get any big seeds off the top. I'm going to give it a good squeeze. This is what you're going to use, the olive oil and the lemon juice is what you're going to use to keep your salad dressing together. It's going to emulsify. There we go. Good squeeze there. And then let me take these seeds out. And I'm going to use a good squeeze. There we go. And don't be afraid to really get into your lemons. You know, if you use your fingers to help break up some of the pulp, you can actually get a lot more juice out than if you just squeeze. And then I'm just going to take my knife and get some of these rogue seeds out. Boom. And then I have one more. So I have right now just lemon juice, olive oil. I'm going to rinse my hand real quick. And then I'm going to put in a little bit of garlic salt. It's probably my favorite seasoning. Just a little goes a long way because we don't want to mess with the delicate flavor. And then I'm going to put a little bit of pepper. Not much because a little goes a long way in a salad dressing, but enough to get a good season on it. And now, I think I actually heard the oven beeping, so I think we should probably take the garlic bread out before it toasts up too much. Oh, it looks like it is perfect right now. We've got a nice golden color to it. So that's a perfect, golden, it's just golden. And now if you look in here, you can start to see the lasagna is bubbling. That's exactly what we want. So that will be ready to come out in just a few minutes. I'm gonna put my garlic bread over here, and then I'm gonna finish up my salad dressing. I'm going to get a little whisk out so I can whisk it well. You can also use your fork, or if you have a mason jar, you can shake it in there. But I'm just going to use it in here. I have a salad dressing shaker, but it's full of stuff right now. So if you see how I'm already whisking and it's thickening up, the lemon juice is like reacting kind of with the olive oil. It's not, I guess, a reaction, but those two, like, one's a lipid, so it's not water soluble. So as you whisk it together, it makes it thicken up. There we go. There's your chemistry lesson for the day. And this is kind of how you make mayonnaise. So mayonnaise uses egg yolk, which is like the fat part, and then you use like lemon juice, or you can use vinegar, and you whip it together, and that's how you make fresh mayo. Let me give it a good taste, see how it is. I think I need a pinch more garlic salt. And then we'll have our nice lemony garlic dressing, which will pair wonderful with the salad since it has more of a Greek influence to it. If you wanted to, you could even add a bit of pesto to it to give it a herby flavor. I might do that. Add just a teensy bit to really bring out the basil. Will pair nicely with the lemon. So I'm just gonna add, it's probably a teaspoon. Whisk it in there. And that will pick up on the flavors in the lasagna as well. So we have a nice, you can see it has a nice kind of greenish color to it. So it's like a lemony, perfect, a lemony basil thing. And I think our lasagna, let's see, it should be ready to come out. It's been cooking for about 30 minutes now. So I'm just gonna clear away right here. I've got my 2 pot holders. And you can see we've got a nice bubble on it. There we go. It's heavy though, I'll tell you that. This is a one heavy lasagna. Okay, and now I will plate up what I will be feeding my family for dinner tonight. So, I'll start out with delicious garlic bread. And now I need a good spatula to cut through. I'm gonna use, this is a fish spatula, but it actually has a nice sharp edge on it when cutting. Okay, see if I got it. Oh, look at that. Look at that cheesy goodness. How wonderful is that? I'm gonna have that on there. Beautiful. And then I'm going to get my tongs. I'll do a quick little stir of my salad. And put it on my plate with a gentle drizzle of my lemony basil salad dressing. And let's not forget a nice helping of strawberries. And I'm gonna get a fork and I'll tell you if it's perfection or not. Excellent. If you like, please subscribe. Join us. I do lots of live cooking shows every day, and I have lots of videos on my page. Thanks for joining us tonight.